apart from we've had a few minutes together. We
Yeah,
haven't met
yeah.
before, and
No,
we
it's great
don't
to meet
know
you
each other.
too.
We're going to spend around about an hour together, and I just want to make this space really open and free for you, so that you can go wherever you want to go. And
Okay.
it's about sharing our stories, and
Yeah.
there is a slant on, feeling shame,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be about that. I just want you to feel free to share. You
Sounds
understand
good.
that?
Sounds
Okay,
good.
great. Okay, so if I step back a bit and just leave you some space, do you have a sense of where you might begin, or do you want some help with that? Or
Well, I could just start from sort of the beginning of, of my life,
yeah,
So, I'm a survivor from, childhood trauma, which includes, my father wasn't much in the picture. We moved around a lot. We lived in poverty. We were sometimes evicted. I was sexually assaulted quite a bit throughout my childhood, mainly because my mother wasn't around either. So I was left alone a lot. And
you were really at risk at those times, Pamela.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I was scared a lot of the time
yeah,
growing up.
no wonder.
Um, I had two older sisters, but they were teens by the time we were away from my father, and I was quite a bit younger than them. So, I was more of a younger child, and they were teens, and they were off doing their own thing.
So you would often
Um,
be alone at home, or
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and I didn't go to school a lot of the time. We didn't have proper food, didn't have proper clothing, um, and even like kind of just dirty and not taking care of myself. And you talk about shame, being
yeah,
ashamed of not having clothing, of
yes.
being hungry, not having anything to bring for lunch and stuff like that.
It's really
So
hard. This is
yeah,
it's very painful.
yeah, and I can remember once days I did go to school, I can remember pretending to eat lunch. And it sounds so sad to even think about it now as a kid. And I don't remember, so this is the 70s and I'm in the US, obviously. I don't remember having like they have lunch programs now where,
Yes, they have like
children
that
who don't
too.
have money can get free lunch.
Yeah.
And I don't remember having that. I don't know if they had started it later or if the proper paperwork just wasn't done for me to get that or what. Because like I said, we moved around a lot. So a
Yeah.
lot of times I was the new kid as well.
Oh, this sounds so
Yeah.
difficult, Pamela. So
Yeah.
very lonely.
Yeah.
I could hear you've got that empathy for yourself. I don't know, it's
Yeah.
like almost like you can really see little you back
Yeah.
there.
And I feel like I've done some inner child work. And I feel for that little me,
Yeah.
and I've written a book and that's really helped, it's a
Oh,
memoir and through that was a lot of healing, for that little me.
wonderful.
Um,
What is your book called?
so I know that, it just sounds, and even in the book, it sounds so terrible and so terrible and so terrible. But the whole idea of writing the book and the whole idea of putting my story out there is it does get better. I mean, it's a hard read and it's a hard story to listen to, but there is a point that I get to, heal from everything.
It's hard not to butt in. I want to give you space, but at the same time, I want you to know that I can really hear and feel your story as you share. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And sometimes I'm so used to telling it that it almost just rolls off my tongue without the
Um,
emotion. You know what I
okay,
mean?
yeah,
And it is important, I think, to allow ourselves to feel that a little bit,
definitely,
and
definitely.
I know that that's one of my, and you being the therapist that you are, that's one of my issues that I still deal with is not allowing myself the emotion.
Ah,
Just
okay.
sort of, I've talked through it and this is this, this, and
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
almost like
Matter of
it's
fact.
somebody else's story,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so,
Yeah.
you know, today, given you and I are together like this, maybe today could be a day where you do feel some of this if you would like to, but at the same time, it's got to be your choice.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why I stepped back a little bit. It's like, okay, I can feel it a little bit, I
Yeah,
don't have to continue on right away, but
yeah.
yeah.
Because you
Yeah,
so
it is.
used
It's heartbreaking for her, for that little me.
to be able to sort of share your story in that very matter-of-fact way.
Hmm.
It sounds like you've done it quite a lot. It sounds like, I mean, you mentioned you've done podcasts and you've spoken with a lot
Right,
of people. And so,
right,
you know, telling your story in that way, in a kind of, and then there was this and there was that and such
right.
and such. And did you say it rolls off your tongue? Is that how you do
Yeah,
that? Mhm, yeah.
yeah. It just kind
And
of comes out.
yes, yeah. And then I had that feeling of, you know, wanting to, I called it butting in, almost like butting in and wanting to say, I'm really hearing this and feeling
Yeah.
as you tell your story. And so maybe that's some of my feeling. It is a pause for you to feel it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I did not realize the gravity of it until some of the reaction of some other people.
Yes.
Um, the way people respond to me sometimes when I tell the story, they're a little bit shocked or a little bit, they tell me it's, to hold on a minute or whatever, like you
They
were
tried to slow
saying,
you down.
yeah.
Yeah. They're really
And I think that,
impacted.
yeah,
They're really
yeah.
impacted. And then when they slow you down, are you able to have that time of feeling it and really knowing it?
Yeah, and that's when I realized that it's not everybody's story because in the beginning I thought, a lot of people have grown up, poor and in poverty. A lot of people have had, sexual assaults in their childhood. A lot of people have lived without a father. And, just a lot of my story is similar to a lot of other people's, but it doesn't make it less impactful.
Absolutely. This was your experience, and
Right,
we all have our own way of experiencing certain
right,
things. And
right,
you know, you went through these experiences, and it sounds very much alone,
right, right. And that's
managing it
why
alone.
with writing my book, that was a huge, so I did go to therapy in my 50s,
Mhm.
but that was after a major breakdown. But the writing of it all was a huge part of healing for me to
Yeah,
sort of get it all
yeah,
out of
yeah,
me and to
yes,
sort of connect those dots as to what
yeah.
happened here and here and here, what led up to everything.
And I'm imagining that that would be great therapy in itself. I hear you
Hmm.
went for therapy, but the
Yeah.
writing of it, being able to
Yes.
join up those dots and say, well, yeah, there was this, and then this, and then
Right.
this.
Because
And
we have things in our mind, we have a memory of things,
we
and you
do,
don't always completely, go from the earliest childhood memory all the way up until the present moment. You don't sit there and go through it all,
yeah,
and there's really is the puzzle pieces really come together when you do that.
yeah,
So, and when
absolutely.
I first started writing, I didn't plan on publishing. It was for me to sort of, get clarity on it.
Yeah. What a great and wonderful free way of beginning your book. To have
Yeah,
space and freedom to just do
right,
it for you without,
right.
you know, because I'm thinking um to well, like this almost, we're
Yeah.
thinking about putting it out there. So that can kind of censor us, can't it? You
Yes.
know, we sort of censor ourselves like, oh, wonder what people will think,
Right,
and that
right.
limits us. So to
Absolutely.
start the way you started your book, how wonderful to have that freedom and space.
Yeah.
Just let it up
Yeah.
flow.
I've had other people tell me that they've wanted to write their story or write their memoir, and they're worried about, what others will think or how
Yeah,
much they should put in there. And
yeah,
I always advise them, write it for you first. And
yes,
you can decide later if you
yeah,
want to put it out there or not. And when you decide that, if you're going to, then you can go back and edit. But
yes,
when you're first writing it, don't the editing at the same time, you know.
Absolutely. What wonderful advice.
Yeah.
This is a wonderful thing that you do. It sounds like this might be a course that you run, or you maybe work one-to-one with people. It helps them write.
It's not a course or anything. I don't feel like I'm very, I don't have a lot of knowledge in, I don't have any training in writing or anything like that. No knowledge other than just having done it myself.
Which is a
But
great experience in itself.
yeah, just people have told me, in whether in podcasts or just friends, I've always wanted to write my story, or or they have a great story and I'm like, you should write a book,
Absolutely.
and they're
You're
like,
really encouraging people. You're
yeah,
great at
yeah.
encouraging others. That's
Yeah,
wonderful. Wonderful. So, wow. So lots and lots and lots and lots went on throughout
yeah,
the years. And you were able to write it and start to join up those dots and begin to make sense of maybe
right,
some of the gaps as well, make sense of it
right,
all. And write this
right.
book, your story.
Yeah,
And then you shared it. You had it
yeah,
published.
right.
And
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what that was like for you to have it come out there and, a book.
Well, it felt really good, of course. I was very careful. We talked a little bit beforehand. I was very careful about names and telling other people's stories within my
Yes,
story.
yeah.
Like, even I have two adult children, and I didn't want to put too much of, I mean, of course, they're a huge part of my life, but I didn't want to go too much into their individual stories.
Absolutely.
Um, and you know, I changed mine. I have my own name as the author, but I have a different name for myself within the story, because I've changed
Oh,
everybody else's names within the
right,
story.
right.
So it was a little bit easier to sort of make it like a story,
Mhm.
rather than having, it's not my children's real names. It's not my
No,
ex-husband's real names or anything like
no,
that.
yeah,
And I avoided using names when possible, like my mother, my father, things like that,
yeah,
or an aunt or something like that.
yeah. It's very difficult. It's quite tricky area.
Yeah, and so can you imagine if when you're first writing it, if you're thinking about all of that as you're writing, you're not
Yeah,
going to really
no,
delve deep and get in there.
no,
So you've got to just put it all out there
yeah,
and know that that first draft is going to be,
yeah.
you're going to
Just
go
for
over it a
you,
million times
just for
more.
you. Yeah,
Yeah, just for you
wonderful
for sure.
advice. Wonderful
Yeah.
advice. Yeah, just for you. Oh, what a great title that would be. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, if you did this I can see you running this as a course for others, actually.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I
That
think it's
sounds
a
fun. I would
wonderful
love
thing
that,
to
but I
do.
don't feel qualified.
Oh, yeah, I mean, do we need to be qualified
I
for
know, I
absolutely
know.
everything? And you've got the experience, you've done it. And it sounds like
Yeah.
it's so encouraging and so, you're very warm and I get a sense you've been very giving and generous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
thank you.
I just think that you've got so much to offer.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well, it just comes out of you, it just comes from you.
I appreciate that.
And how are you doing? Let's check in. How are you right now? How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I feel like I feel like we've skipped a bunch. Like, so you've heard a little bit of my story and kind of was like, oh my gosh, but then there's so much more.
Yeah. And so would you like to get back to that and share more? Because I get a feeling that you really would like to be able to share all of the things that you've experienced.
Yeah, because I feel like I want people to realize that whatever you go through, that it you can come out and be, a happy person and love your life, and there
Absolutely.
is much more that I've been through in my life that maybe others can relate with, and
Yeah.
feel like they're stuck in that spot, either the past or something they're going through now
Yeah.
or still holding on to.
Absolutely. And that gives others
Yeah.
hope. So shall I step back again?
Yeah, so I was talking about, elementary school, I guess, and and being alone in that. So then just before my 14th birthday, my oldest sister was killed in a car accident.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so we talked about, me not having, having a problem with emotions and feeling emotions. So another thing with that, besides being alone a lot and being fearful a lot as a young child, then just before I was 14 and my sister was killed in the car accident, we were at the hospital and my mother's friend told me, she put her finger in my face and she said, "Don't you cry. Don't you cry. You be
Oh my
strong for your
goodness.
mother."
Oh, Pamela,
I
how can you
know.
not possibly cry at this
I know that
experience?
what a terrible thing to tell somebody,
Absolutely.
anybody, let alone a
The
child.
pressure, the
Yeah.
pressure put on you. And you were, did you say you were 14?
Yeah, it was 2 days before my 14th birthday.
And so
Yeah.
did you cry? Were you able to still cry?
No, I was like in shock for like almost a week. Like I was just
Yeah.
very stoic
It's such
and
a
people,
powerful thing. Sorry, I
yeah.
did it again.
It's okay. And the family and people thought something, they were worried about me. So they would have been better off. They would have felt better about me if I was breaking down crying, but I was
Yeah,
just, so
yeah.
stoic that they were starting to worry about me.
No wonder.
Um,
And did
yeah,
anyone know that that person said that to you?
I don't think so. No, I
The,
don't think
the
so.
power of like an authority figure, your mum's
Right.
friend. It's an authority
Right.
figure, isn't it? And to have
Yeah.
an authority figure and to point right in your face.
Yeah.
And we're only
Yeah, my mother
14.
and my father were away, over talking to the doctors or the nurses or whatever. And I was sitting, it was like a waiting room kind of a situation. And I was there, and my mother's friend had drove us.
Right.
And so I was there with her alone. And so nobody else heard her say
Yeah.
that.
In her company, at risk in her company, being such a powerful, potent
Yeah,
person controlling you.
right.
Don't you, how did she put it? Don't you cry.
Don't you cry. You have to be
Don't you
strong
cry.
for your mother. As if, you know,
Yeah.
and
And
my mother just lost her child, there's
absolutely.
me not crying is not going to give strength to my mother,
No. And you
that,
lost your sister.
yeah,
You
yeah,
lost your sister. And it's one of those moments again, Palmer, is it okay that I have, I'm bringing you to that place of, is there
yeah.
anything to feel right now? Or maybe you've already been here and done this.
Well, when I did go to therapy, so I had a major breakdown at age 50, and I'm 57 now, and I did go to therapy at that point. And at that time, we spent a lot of time grieving for my younger self at each stage, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And I went through EMDR therapy because at first I couldn't I couldn't really talk about things. And I wouldn't let myself talk about it because the emotions would come up and I wouldn't let them. And at that time, I didn't understand why.
yeah,
Why aren't you allowing yourself to feel anything?
yeah,
And so at that time, I had been through 2 abusive marriages before a breakdown. And I finally had this major breakdown, which I should have had long before. And when I went to therapy, I didn't know what I was even going for. It was like I couldn't sleep.
yeah,
And I was at a point where, I was suicidal. I had never been depressed and suicidal before. So that was like a new thing for me. And I was very anxious, fearful, suicidal, couldn't really function. So I went to the doctor. I was thinking basically I couldn't sleep.
yeah.
And then he sent me to the therapist.
Okay,
And so then all of this stuff came out.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you were able to um be be more open and free with the therapist.
Yeah, yeah. Allow myself to realize what I've been through.
Yeah,
Um,
and start
and
to
that,
feel it.
yeah, yeah, hold that space for myself, or to know
Oh,
that it's
important.
okay to feel it.
Absolutely. And when we haven't been accompanied, I'm going to jump back in time again. Is that okay
Mm-hmm.
with you?
Yeah,
So little you wasn't really accompanied by somebody that would be able to hear and see and really, empathize and be alongside you and like
Right.
accompany you, attune to you. And you missed
Right.
out on all of that.
Right.
And then fast forward to the age you were when you went for therapy.
Yeah.
You had somebody accompany you and help you with your feelings.
Right.
And how are you doing? If you check in with your body right now, how are you doing right now? Is it okay that I ask this?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay because it's good. It's good. I don't do that enough.
And so how is your body? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good, actually.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And what can I ask what signals that you've got that say to you, I'm good, I'm okay?
So I check in with like my stomach and my heart and my throat and areas that would normally feel heavy or stuck.
Yeah,
So when you say that, I'm like paying attention. Okay, where am I? I'm good. It feels
yeah,
free.
that's free. Lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm aware that once again, I keep saying to myself, you've butted in. And I know you want space to be able to share your story. So I'll make some more space for you.
No, that's totally fine. So so then after that, so that was at 14. Um, and so then I was a teen mother. At 17, I was a teen mother, and not really a big problem. I was able to put all my focus on my son, and at that time I wasn't able to finish high school. Now I know that they have programs for teen moms and they allow them to stay in school. In fact, they encourage them to stay in school. But at that point, I was told to leave school because they thought I would be a bad influence. So they wanted me to leave and then pick up where I left off after the baby was born. But instead, I got the GED, rather, the general education diploma, rather than coming back. So I did that. And like I said to you, before, so I got the GED, which is kind of known for people who are like high school dropouts. And it's like just a test that you take to show that you can do, the same education that the people who finished high school. And I know that I have a little bit of I felt like I wasn't good enough. So I went to nursing school. I was a nurse for 14 years. I switched careers in 2020, and that's another book. I wrote another book on that total
Oh, wow.
experience, but
But
we'll
do you want
talk
to just
about that
mention that?
after.
But okay, right. As long as you say it so that just in case, I'm sure people will want to read it.
So, so, um, so we were talking beforehand, you said I said, I'm not qualified to teach classes and all these things behind me I put on the wall,
Yes,
and I know that, and I have a little bit of I advise people that it's okay to be proud of yourself and to celebrate your achievements. And I do that because I know I never had that. And, I didn't go to high school graduation and stuff like that. And so, and it's okay to feel proud of yourself and to,
absolutely.
and to celebrate your achievements in that. So, I know that I have a little bit of that. I guess it's imposter syndrome, where you don't
Yeah,
feel like you're qualified to do
yeah,
things.
that
And so it's
not good
always
enough.
one more,
Yeah,
one
yeah,
more certificate, one more class, one more course, maybe then I'll be okay to tell
yeah.
others, But
I'm really struck by the way they said that you would be a bad influence to be at school.
yeah. So in the
Oh,
school, they had asked me to come back after I had the baby to pick
yeah,
up where I left off. And I was a junior in high school when I was pregnant. So I would have had a whole another year to go to
right.
with a baby that I would have had to find daycare or something for. And I did pretty well. I mean, I wasn't like a straight A student or anything, but I did pretty well. And so it wasn't really difficult for me to pass the GED. So I just went for some GED classes, passed the GED, and then I was able to, I was a live-in nanny for my cousin who had infant twins, so that,
Oh,
Yeah, so so I
That's
could still
nice.
have my little one with me,
Yeah,
and help her take care of hers, and
yeah.
and then she didn't have to put, hers in daycare and that. So all of that, that was the best time of my life, or not
Oh,
not the best time of my life, but one of the best times of my life. I
you
just
really loved
really
it.
enjoyed motherhood
Yeah,
and taking care of babies.
yeah.
So
Three of them. You
yeah,
did you
and
say
I
your
and I think
husband's
about
too?
it now, I
Yes, oh
marvel at it
wow.
now. I was so
That is a
young.
handful. Three.
But I loved it.
Oh
There's
wow.
nothing about it that was, that was bad. I loved it. So, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I still am holding on to you being a bad influence, being called a bad influence at
Right, right.
school. And I'm just thinking, I'm guessing there was nobody there for you in your corner, standing up for you.
Right, right.
Is that okay to even say that?
Yeah, it's interesting you said that because I haven't heard that before.
Yeah.
Um, my mother was there, my mother was supportive. She didn't kick me out, and she didn't belittle me or anything. Um, but I don't feel like I had a whole lot of support.
No,
I didn't feel
no,
like I had anybody in my corner.
no, that's how it feels. But
Yeah.
to have that experience back at the hospital when your sister died, to have that
Yeah.
person be there pointing in your face, and it's like you're
Yeah.
alone again. It's something
Yeah.
you're often, you have often been alone and
Yeah.
living with authority figures alone.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, it just strikes me about how alone you've had to be.
Right, right. And
I'm
that's how
sure
I
God
felt throughout
help you.
my childhood and all that. Yeah.
I really feel it very strongly.
Hmm.
But the other bit of that is that you show up for others. You are there for others. You're a
Yeah.
therapist. Did you say you do healing arts?
Well, I'm a hypnotherapist, and so I
Yeah,
just finished a course in integrative healing arts. And so that has a little bit of other like coaching, spiritual coaching, life coaching,
yeah,
intuitive guidance and stuff like that, integrative in with the hypnotherapy.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So, and that to me speaks of you being there for others.
Yeah.
You're really there for others. And when people want to write a book, you're the one that says, please write your book, and you encourage them, and
Absolutely. Yeah,
just
we
so
need more
encouraging
people to
for
tell
others.
their stories.
So I'm
Yeah.
wondering what it's like for me, to highlight or to at least say this is really striking me as really big, that you were on your own so much, and you give so much to others.
I feel like it helps. I get as much out of what I give, I get as much back. And I know that's kind of cliche. A lot of people say that, but it's so true.
Yeah,
You know, when I'm helping someone through hypnotherapy or through coaching, and, as much as I can feel you know, feeling the healing within them, I'm feeling it within me as well.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
equal almost. Yeah. I
It
do,
is.
I feel like we're all connected so much. And,
I agree.
I think when you put whatever you put out in the world, not only it comes back to you, but it makes the world, you can't help but to make the world a better place, because, it's all about the energy that you're putting out. And if you're
Absolutely.
helping others with their energy as well, then that's a whole ripple effect there,
Yeah. So how are you doing with telling your story? Because I get a feeling that you really need and want to tell your story very much. And I keep butting in with things,
No,
and
it's
bring
okay.
us back to this place again. But I want to give you space to do that. It feels like a
Well,
strong.
I just feel like it's so important for people to know that, like I said, that it can get better, whatever they're going through. And, we talked in the very beginning about shame, and a lot of what people have been through that is similar to what I've been through, they still feel shame around, and they don't talk about it. It's almost like a
Yeah,
secret,
absolutely.
and I don't want people to feel that way, you know.
I
you
guess
know,
we're similar in that sense because I want us to be able to share our shame, all of us. And,
yeah,
I could say me too to many things that you've shared
right,
today. And when
right.
we get that out in the open and it's seen and heard, it
Yeah.
reduces the impact, almost like it dissolves the shame.
Right.
Shame
And then
leaves
people don't feel
empty.
so alone, and
Exactly.
we
Yeah.
come back to that point of being alone, then
Yeah.
people aren't alone in their shame or in their secrets or in their story, the more others share,
Yeah.
and then they can see too that, oh, if she's sharing that, then it must be okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
So, where would you like to go next? Because I want to give you that space that I really sense that you need.
I was in a marriage that was very controlling, very emotionally abusive, um, verbally abusive, and excuse me. And
Oh,
I was
it's
in that
fine.
marriage for 15 years. And in that marriage, I went, and near the end of that marriage, I went to nursing school. And that was huge for me. That gave me a lot of confidence that I didn't have. And it kind of, in the back of my mind, I think, so at that moment, when I first started nursing school, I wasn't thinking about leaving the marriage just yet. But I know now, and in writing the story, I also know that that was in the back of my mind, that I would
You
be
had a
able to take
plan.
care of myself,
Mhm.
be a little more independent and not so dependent on my then husband. And, a little, like I said, a little self-confidence. So I went to nursing school, and when I was at the end of it, so, 4 years later, then I was just doing my finals and just just about to take my state exams. And then I told my husband I wanted a divorce. And my counselors at school and everybody said, wait until after you're done with your finals and everything to go through the divorce. But I felt like I couldn't wait. So I was
You just
going through
needed
all
to
of that
do
at
it.
once. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
so strong that it was
Yeah.
actually such a release. It felt
Yeah.
like such a relief to get that at least started, while I was doing that.
Yeah. I'm just wondering
So,
how that went for you when you asked for that. Was this easy or was this a fight? Is
well, he was shocked. He was shocked, and he thought that I was just, like joking, or like that I would come back, because I moved out pretty quickly. Um, luckily at that time, I doubt they do this now, but I was able to get a job in a hospital right away, even though my grades hadn't come back yet.
Mhm.
But they said, I could be in the hospital training. And then once I had my license, my nursing license, then they would, promote me, for nursing. But I could start my training and start working. So I had enough money to live on my own. And my oldest was already out of the house. My youngest was a teenager. And so I wasn't far from the house. And I was just, I decided, I wasn't going to fight for any kind of custody or do anything. She was a teenager, and kind of let her do what she wanted to do as
Yes.
far as stay either
Yeah.
place, whatever. Um, so I was lucky enough that I was able to find a place to move out right away. But he always thought, she's going to come back. This is just
Yeah.
like a midlife crisis kind of a thing,
Yeah. But
or
you meant
something.
it. You meant this.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were going.
Yeah.
Well,
And actually, so the like about a month before that, like, so when I first told him I wanted a divorce, he was shocked, and he had wanted to go to therapy, counseling, and I already knew I was done. By the time I said it, I had been thinking about it for at least
yeah.
a year,
Yeah.
which I know a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
But
You were really ready.
yeah. But and he drank a lot. Um, so I agreed to the counseling, kind of more for him than me, to kind of let him ease into it.
Okay.
And when I went to the counseling, I didn't say too much. And I remember the counselor saying to me, wow, you are really self-contained, aren't you? And And I took that as I was surprised that she said that about me, but I realized she was so right. And I had been really self-contained. I had really kept my emotions in and my thoughts and feelings to myself, but I
Yeah,
had always done that,
exactly. Yeah,
and I
always
didn't know
had
how
to.
to share.
Yeah, you were busy accompanying yourself through the, I'm getting ready to leave. I'm going to ask for
Yeah.
divorce. I'm going. I'm
Yeah.
really done. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
That, I'm thinking, it's so generous of you to give him that time in counseling to come to terms with what was happening and process what was happening.
Yeah.
It sounds like, I think you described him as quite controlling, a drinker,
Yeah. Yep.
abusive.
Well, he wasn't physically abusive, but every other way he was abusive.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you got to that stage of, I've been thinking about this for a good year, I'm ready to go, but to give him time to come to terms with it. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It had been 15 years. We were married for 15 years and together almost 20 at that point. So I felt like I kind of, I don't want to say owed him that, but I felt like, it was the right thing to do.
yeah. It feels, go back to that word generous. It feels very
Yeah.
generous of you to give him that after
Yeah.
what you've been through. I'm just
I
wondering
guess.
what's happening inside of you as I say that.
Well, I'm confused. I mean, I feel I don't know that it was generous as much as it was just trying to be fair,
Yeah.
just trying to be fair.
You feel very fair,
Yeah.
very, very fair. And I do get that sense of you, there's an energy about you, a gentle, paced, calm kind of
Yeah.
energy about you. Like,
Yeah.
I hear that you decided to get a divorce and you knew you were going to get a divorce, but you spent about a year mulling it over. You
Yeah, just
really needed
trying to
help.
decide like, is this a fleeting kind of a thing?
Mhm.
I didn't really think of counseling at the time, but I was thinking, is it more because, my life had changed so much going to school and that, and I didn't know if me changing would change him, or was he was actually getting worse and worse. And I think it was because he was
Right.
losing control.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
was standing up for myself a little bit more too,
yeah.
and trying to avoid him actually, once
Mm.
he started putting me down in front of the kids is when I tried to avoid even being in the same room with him,
Yeah.
or avoid any kind of talking with him at all,
Mhm.
because, it
That
wasn't ever going
dynamic,
to turn out positive. So,
no.
um,
But that
yeah,
the dynamic really started to shift and change.
yeah,
You were more assertive and confident. He was losing control and power.
right. So
Yeah,
he was getting worse.
yeah. And he was
Yeah,
like escalating. He was stepping
yeah,
up. Yeah,
right.
to get you back in your box. Back.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's the way I put it. Like back in your
Yeah,
box.
that's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
but you weren't going back in any box.
No, no,
No,
no.
no.
So, so when we went to counseling, so she had given us like this homework, basically going on dates and, spending more time together and, the usual kinds of things you hear. And, and he was actually still getting worse. So he wasn't following along with the homework, and he was going out to the bars after work and not even coming home, let alone, I was trying to set up dates for us, he wasn't doing any of it. I was trying to make reservations at restaurants, or do you want to, go on a weekend trip, or, I was trying to
Yeah,
set up things for us, and I didn't even want that, but I was the one trying to follow what the counselor
yeah.
said.
You were
And
following
he was,
that.
yeah, and
He
he
was doing the
wasn't. And
opposite.
right. So when I realized that he wasn't even, he was the one who wanted to do counseling, and he was the one that wanted to keep the marriage together, and I was working harder at it than he was,
Yeah.
that was when I started, making plans to move out,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
you knew this is investing
Yeah,
here is pointless.
right.
Yeah, Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how are you doing? This,
Good.
yeah.
Those marriage things, because they're closer, I think, and it's not like the child me.
Yeah.
It's more of
Yeah.
this is closer to the adult
Yeah.
me.
Not
So
so
those
many
things
years
are a little
back.
harder.
Ah, right. Yeah. So
Yeah,
they're closer to home. You feel
right,
them more because it's only a few years ago. Is that have I got
right.
that right?
Well, that was so that one was 2007, I believe it was, when I divorced. So not a few
Okay.
years ago, but not
Yeah,
still adult me, you know.
sure. Yeah. And then but as you say, it's kind of closer than childhood, so you feel
Yeah.
it more.
Yeah.
And is it
Yeah,
okay
and you
to
know
ask
what?
what you feel?
I
Mhm.
think too, because it's not resolved. I feel like it's not resolved. Like so I have two ex-husbands. So the next I jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire, the next one's worse. So
Right.
those two ex marriages, those things feel like they're not resolved in me. So I don't know. That
Some,
those I feel
something
more.
needs something needs
Yeah.
something needs tweaked to settle
Yeah.
things in you.
Yeah. There are things I think about still that bother me.
Yeah. Do you want
I
to say
get
what they
angry
are,
about.
or would you like to tell me, or not really?
Well, we could, sure. I mean,
What would you like to do?
so with the first marriage, I still like we never talk. We
Mhm.
never have talked after. And like our daughter got married, and it was just really kind of very superficial talk, just what absolutely needed to be talked
Yeah.
about, which was
Yeah.
very little. And and he's never been one for talking anyway, and I don't know if he's changed at all. But my daughter has said to me, and she's, in her 30s now, and she had said to me, quite a few years back, but she had said, I know why, I can see now why you left dad. Like she
Okay.
saw how controlling he was, and, and how he spoke about women, how he spoke to women and stuff. So she saw that,
Yeah. She's
you
really
know.
felt that. Maybe she's
Yeah.
felt that personally as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Mhm.
because they have a real good relationship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
Maybe
so
she witnessed it with others.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once we were away and he started dating, and that, so she could kind of see how he spoke of women and how he
Yeah.
spoke to women.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a very strong young woman herself. I'm very proud of her. She's everything I wasn't.
Oh, funny enough, I was going to say she sounds just like you.
Well, so she will definitely take care of herself and won't get herself in those situations,
Wow.
you know.
What an amazing young woman.
Yeah, yeah. So she was very aware of, of how her father was treating or talking about other women wasn't
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So, and there was something about there's been things that are unspoken for you, anger that's unexpressed for you.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, is there anything you would like to have said to your husband?
I wish I could just, either write him a letter or just
Yeah.
tell him how I felt through the marriage. I
Mhm.
just kind of want him to know. And that's what bothers me is I don't know why I want him to know. Like, what do I hope to get out of that?
Well,
But
yeah, I mean, I get a feeling because you haven't expressed it, it's still inside of you.
right.
It's unexpressed.
Yeah.
Whether he
But
gets
what
to read, yeah, sorry.
yeah, what does that matter to him? You know what I mean? If I write it to him,
Yeah.
is he going to read it, first of all? And if he does, he won't care. You know what I mean? It's
No,
like it doesn't matter. It won't
no,
change anything. I mean, not that I know of anyway, you
sure.
know.
But I've got this but in me. I want to say, but what about you? How will you then feel? Because if you can express this out of you as if you're saying it to him, or even if you write him a letter that will never get sent, at
Yeah.
least it gets it outside of you.
Right. Right.
I don't know if that feels like it's something you would want to do or say
Yeah,
right now.
and I'm kind of chuckling because I give that advice to people myself.
Yeah, we do this stuff, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah. Write it out, get it out of you.
Yeah.
And then what you do with it afterwards, you can decide
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
So I give that advice, but yeah, I hadn't even thought about it in this situation.
Of course, yeah. We do. We're just human, aren't we?
Yeah.
But
So
is there something
yeah,
you might like to say? I mean, I guess you might have come across the term empty chair work, talking to the
yeah.
empty chair.
Yeah, where I would pretend that he's in front of
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
And what would
Yeah, I
you
don't
say
I don't
then?
think I want to do that now.
No, no problem at all. No pressure whatsoever. If ever you
But
want to
yeah.
do that, though, just let me know and we can do
Okay.
that. Just let me know.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, so
Thank you for that. Yeah.
yeah, you're so welcome. But maybe at some point you might write something down to him and
Yeah.
it will maybe never get sent, but at least you will have expressed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I will. I mean, that just really, rung true in my mind that's like, wow, why didn't I think of that?
Sometimes we just need another though to be there alongside
Right.
of us. And me too. I'm 20, I
Yeah.
don't know, 6 years in or something. I still need someone to be alongside of me too.
Yeah.
And how are you doing and where do you want to go from here?
So, so I went to nursing school and, I knew pretty quickly in my nursing that it wasn't really the right career for me. Never enough staff, never enough resources. You're always overworked. Eventually after many years in, I was doing some 16-hour shifts and just really, slowly burning out, of course. And but so soon after my divorce from my first husband, I remarried. So let's
That
talk about shame
smile.
a little bit here.
I was going to say, I can see that smile. Yeah.
So this second marriage was a friend from high school so I had my was a teen mom, and this man was a friend of my son's father. And he was very much more into my pregnancy, and he was there when the baby was born, always asked me how the baby was, he was very concerned
Okay.
and very you know, doting towards me and my baby, more so than the father of my baby. Just a very good person, at that time.
Did it
So
feel genuine then? Did it feel very genuine?
absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a teen.
Mhm.
And then fast forward, 30 something years later,
Yeah.
he comes back into my life.
Okay.
I didn't know him as a man.
No.
We got married right away.
Okay.
And that was a huge mistake. He was
Right.
a drug addict, another alcoholic. He ended up being physically abusive as well as all the other ways.
Wow.
And
You went through a lot. You went through
yeah,
a huge amount. Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm just thinking,
And
what a shock to,
yeah,
the he that he was back then,
yeah,
the he that he became as when you met him later,
yeah,
worlds apart, very different.
yeah.
And
And
what a
so
shock.
and I didn't, and I don't, I think that I like, they talk about ignoring red flags, or not noticing the red flags. I
Yeah.
was mistaking familiarity, somebody that is like, oh, this is somebody I know or knows me really well
Yeah.
from my past. I know this person to be a good person,
Yeah.
not even considering everything that's happened. So another thing about this one that's really shocking is, so when I went to divorce, so I knew that I was the third wife. And when I was getting married to him, I thought, oh, I was kind of wasn't sure that was, that was a little bit of a red flag that I was considering, like, oh, the third wife, I don't know.
Mhm.
But come to find out, I was the sixth wife.
Oh,
So when I was
Right. Yeah, big shock.
when I was divorcing, the divorce lawyer was actually like a specialized in divorce. So he was expensive, and that was all he did. And he was a very, a very good divorce lawyer. He did a lot of back research and everything, and he found out that he had been married 5 times before me.
Wow.
And something I didn't know.
What was that like to hear that 5 times?
Just shocking, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And it just went along with, because the 2 years before the divorce, it was just like everything. I was just being shocked, by him,
Again and
every
again.
step of the way. It was like,
Yeah.
who is this person, or
Yeah.
what did I do? And, it was like a waking up,
Yeah. So yeah, that assuming he was just going to be the way he was back then.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What
I thought this would be somebody I
shock.
could connect with, somebody that
Yes.
knew me well and I knew him, and, but
And it
no.
just wasn't the case.
Right.
How are you doing? Because you said, when you began this, that you had that smile on your face and saying, talking about shame.
Right,
How
right.
are
So
you
this
doing with this, given you
so
felt,
this is another area that I feel, like I said, both of the ex-marriages, I
yes,
feel that is unresolved,
yeah, yeah,
So when I left him, it was there was, he had beat me up, and he was on, some sort of drugs. He was not himself. He was
mhm,
under the influence of
yeah,
something, and he had beat me up, and I had to call the police to get out of there. And then I never saw him again. Um,
Ooh,
yeah,
wow,
so, and
yeah,
never had any contact. So the divorce lawyer also put in the divorce a restraining order. And usually the restraining order you do separately, and so then it's for a certain amount of time.
mhm,
But because this divorce lawyer was so good, he knew that you could put it in the divorce, so it was indefinitely.
for good.
Mhm.
And do you
Yeah,
feel, do you feel safe?
I do. I do now, but for the longest time I did not.
No, I just got a sense that you might be watching over your shoulder and
Yeah, I was.
yeah,
And that's
feel
when
that.
I had that big breakdown.
Ah,
So
okay,
yeah.
got it.
So then when I moved
Stress
out,
or so
right,
much pressure and stress.
right. So everything up to that point, everything, like the childhood stuff, the
Yeah,
first marriage, the
yeah,
second marriage, and then bam, I was alone, and my body and my mind said, okay, now we can have this breakdown,
yeah,
So I had said at one point, because that second husband was in and out of psychiatric hospitals and recovery treatment centers, and and all this stuff. And we were trying, I should say, I was trying to get him help. Um, but I remember saying out loud, I wish I could break down. When do I have the time to break down? And
yeah,
I know we've all heard that before, but
yeah.
I was the one that was working, 12, 16 hours, keeping the bills
Holding it
paid and
all
all that.
together. Yeah,
Mhm.
being the strong one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And keeping his schedule of his doctor's appointments and all of his stuff, together too.
being so
So
responsible for him,
yeah.
for
Yeah.
you,
I was
almost
definitely
like a
more of a
mother for him.
Yeah, I felt like his caretaker, his
Yeah,
nurse, as
yeah,
well as, so I was working in an Alzheimer's unit at that point, and that was like my sanctuary, my safe space. So when you realize that the Alzheimer's unit
yeah,
is your safe space,
yeah.
is the
That
place
says
you
a
feel more
lot.
at peace. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
I never knew what I was coming home to. Yeah.
So just that living with that dread every day,
Oof. That was
approaching,
really,
yeah, starting to get towards the house or wherever you were living.
yeah.
I can feel it. I can feel it in my body
Yeah.
now. We talked
Yeah.
not feeling earlier. Do you feel
Yeah.
anything right now?
Yeah, I still feel that in my stomach. It
You've
just
got it
gets
in
so
your gut.
tight to think about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
right in my gut. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've got kind of a wavy, wobbly feeling in mine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See, you must
dread
be
of
so
it.
empathic, right? I bet you are.
I am pretty
Yeah.
empathic, yeah. But you could
Yeah.
just sense that as you've been away doing a long, long shift, on an Alzheimer's ward, this is very, very heavy work, hard
Mhm.
work. And then to come home with that dread and fear inside of you because you don't know what's going to happen when you get
Right.
through the door. And
Yeah.
you would go in, you would go home, you would go in, probably
Yeah.
exhausted.
Yeah.
And then who knows what would happen.
Right. Just hoping he was asleep or passed out.
Yep.
But if he wasn't, who knows? You know, and sometimes if he was passed out, he would be laying in the middle of the kitchen floor with the refrigerator open or something, you know?
Literally
And
passed out in the middle of whatever he was doing.
yeah, and you don't know if he hit his head, could, you know, cause the house to catch on fire or something too, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep. I can really, really hear how responsible you are. And, you're thinking ahead. He could have set fire to
Yeah,
the house. He could have banged his head, knocked himself unconscious.
right.
You care very deeply and
Yeah.
consider things very deeply. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what's unresolved with that one. So I have more anger with the first marriage, and with the second one, it's more of like I hope he's okay, or he might be, I hope he got the help he eventually needed, or he might not be with us anymore, you know.
But you don't know.
I have
You
no
can't have
idea.
that contact. Yeah.
No contact.
No.
And, and all of his, any family or friends or anything, I had blocked everywhere before, so, I was very fearful, right at that time when I had left him is when I had that major breakdown, as I said.
Yeah.
And that's when I became very anxious and suicidal and, barely function.
Mhm.
And so so here's another big thing. So then I got on a bus with a one-way ticket and moved from, the Midwest to the West Coast.
My
I sold
goodness.
almost everything. I thought a big move was going to help me,
Yeah.
to get away. I
Start to
thought it was
finish.
just being there
Yeah.
was causing me to be so fearful, not knowing where he was,
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
And did
but
anyone know you'd gone? Did you tell it? Did you tell
oh
anyone?
yeah.
Tell some people.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, so I had quit work and I had told my landlord that I was moving and, and close friends and my mother and stuff like that. So yeah, people knew that
yeah.
I was going. It wasn't
Yeah.
like, middle of the night secret thing, but yeah,
Okay. And you went alone.
I went alone. It was a 3-day bus ride.
Oh my goodness.
It's so crazy to think now, but I did. But I was so numb, like people will ask me, were you scared? Were you, how did you feel on the bus?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was numb. I didn't feel anything.
Sure.
I didn't care, I didn't care. I was suicidal. It was like a last ditch effort.
Yeah.
I knew enough about suicidal ideations to know that, I was starting to make a plan and I had enough, thought to know this is not good. I can't
Yeah.
stay in this,
You're aware.
mindset. I need to make a big change.
Yeah. Yeah. And you really did.
Yeah.
Had a breakdown. You found a therapist. You
Yeah.
turned your
So,
life around.
yeah,
You turned your whole life around.
I did. Yeah.
Wow.
It's possible. See?
It is. It's so possible. So possible. Can I just check in with you again? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I feel good.
Okay.
It's good. It's good to, kind of get it out, I guess,
Yeah, absolutely. Talking
Yeah.
certainly helps.
Yeah.
It really does. And it helps others too. Because we share.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. And this, what a transformation. You go on this bus journey 3 days
Right.
on your own,
Right.
from one part of the country to the other, all
Right.
the way out to the coast
Mm-hmm.
and start afresh.
Yeah. So it actually took a few years,
Mhm. No wonder.
Yeah.
No wonder.
So I started doing jobs where, so it takes a lot to switch your nursing license from one state to another.
Oh, right.
And I wasn't sure
Yeah.
that I could do that. I wasn't sure I could do that work at that point with the state that I was in, and I wasn't sure that I was going to stay there,
Right.
So I started taking jobs where I was doing in-home caregiving. So it was like live-in jobs, in-home caregiving, in-home pet sitting, and in-home like taking care of somebody's, it's like house sitting, I guess,
Yeah.
you know, taking care of somebody's home while they lived somewhere else and they came back for the other half of the year and that kind of stuff. So
Okay.
finding those jobs for the first, I guess, year and a half or so,
That
a year
sounds
and a
like a
half, 2
great
years.
idea.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
wouldn't have the responsibility of paying
right,
like mortgage, or is that, have I
right.
got this right? I'm just thinking
Yeah,
the stress and strain of having a house.
yeah, or having to go to, you know, punch in work anywhere, get
Yeah,
ready and go to work,
yes,
or, you know,
yeah.
anything like that.
So
Yeah.
you were able to have some downtime and recovery time.
Yeah, yeah,
Wonderful. What an
yeah.
incredible that, I mean, did you think this up? Did you think this is what I'm going to do, or did you fall into it? What happened?
Before I left, before I got on the bus, I was looking into what, you know, what I could do when I
Yeah,
got there, you know.
right.
Like I
You're
didn't get off
very
the bus with
resourceful.
like, what am I, where am I, you know, I didn't
Yeah,
get off the
yeah,
bus and not have a destination.
sure,
So I
sure.
had it set up for the first type of live-in job, you know, and then just went from there.
Wow. You're so resourceful.
I thank you.
Seriously, are so resourceful.
I
Amazing.
feel like I've had to be, you know.
Yeah, of course, of course. You've really had to accompany yourself and take care of you so much of your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of sitting here, I've got goosebumps. I'm feeling like, oh my goodness, she's so, I can't get that, that past that. It's like, she's so resourceful. It's amazing to have that awareness and capacity to
Yeah.
get on that bus. You've
Yeah.
already got something in place,
Yeah.
and something that's going to be really offer you a healing environment of
Right.
space and time to start to
Right.
recover and heal from what
Yeah.
you've been through.
Yeah. I had
Wow.
sold my car even, so I knew I needed to be somewhere that I didn't have to go, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
drive to work, you
sure.
know.
Yeah.
And like you said, I didn't want to have to be responsible to come up with rent or mortgage or anything every month and stuff
Oof.
like that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. The pressures of that
yeah.
feels like it would just be overload.
Right, right. It was too much to even you know, when you're that depressed and that anxious, it's too much almost to even take care of yourself, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So you have to be able to be in an environment, you know, where you don't have you know, any other pressures. I
yeah,
mean, it's so hard to do that, but you know, it's if it's you know, it's almost you almost have to be able to find that or reach out to others and ask
yeah,
about, you know,
absolutely.
opportunities or even ask for help or suggestions or anything.
Yeah.
You know, or hearing, you know, I think that's another part of hearing other people's stories is to know that there are possibilities out there, you know.
When you moved, did you know anybody out there, or were you going to an area that was brand new to you?
Yeah, not really, not really. Just some online friends
Yeah.
that I knew, but nobody really. And they're the ones that sort of helped me to find, you know, get some numbers and stuff like that where I could be doing some, you know,
Wonderful.
live in caretaking and
Yeah.
live in, you know, jobs where I'm doing jobs for the people that live there while they're away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just going to check the time because I don't even know what time it is. My
Yeah.
clock's over there on the wall over there. So we've been together for about an hour and a quarter. Before we say goodbye today, I'm just wondering that it feels unfinished. And is there anything more you'd like to say? Because you have gone through so much, and you've absolutely turned everything around
Yeah.
so incredibly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sit there with this serenity around you. It's really, you come across as so serene and very steady, and
Yeah.
it feels very real. And
Thank
is that
you.
how you feel?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
My life is at a point now that I never even thought possible. Like I love my life
Oh,
and I love myself.
oh,
And I never thought that not only did I ever not think I would get here, but I never even thought that that was possible. So that's what I want people to
Yeah.
take away
Yes, yeah,
is, you know, that all that I've
all
been
of that.
through,
Yeah,
you can get to this point, you know, and
yeah,
I'm not saying it's easy, you know, but, you know,
yeah.
but it's possible.
It's possible, and you are absolute proof of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and so is there anything more you would like to just say about that? Because I don't want to rush you away or anything, because it just, if there's anything more you want to say, please say it while you've got the opportunity. And we can talk again if ever you want to, if you want.
I just, you know, I guess that's it. You know, I mean, you know, there's more, you know, I had quit my nursing career after a few more years. I ended up going back to nursing after therapy. I quit nursing. I'm happily married to which I never would have been able to be in a good, respectful, you know, truly loving relationship if it wasn't for therapy. I know a lot of people give up on, you know, they're like, oh, I'll never find
Yeah,
love or I'll
after
never
you,
marry
yeah,
again.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
So,
you
yeah,
have,
yeah.
and you look really happy and content.
Thank you. I am. I truly am.
I'm so
So,
pleased.
yeah.
Pamela, it's just incredible to be
Yeah. Thank you.
witnessing what you've been through and to hear where you are now and to see
Thank
all
you.
your certificates behind
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's my imposter syndrome on display. I got my GED. I quit high school, so now I now I have to do that. Yeah.
you really are, but you really are so resourceful and so, capable of so much. And you
Thank
help
you.
others in such a big way, in so many
Thank you.
different ways, because through the hypnotherapy and the arts, but also the writing, because
Yeah.
it sounds like you do a lot of you're really there for people that want to write their story
Yeah. Yeah.
and help them with that too. And
Yeah.
that's
Thank you.
wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ah, thank you. It's just been lovely to spend this time with you and
Yeah.
get to know you. So right now, is there anything left to say, or does that kind of feel like enough for today? Or
I think that's a good place to end.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So if I turn off the recording and then we can have a little goodbye together, is that okay with you?
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank
Okay.
you.